Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Terry Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to talk about the full moon in Gemini happening on December 15th, 2024 at 1:01 a.m. Pacific time. This is happening at 23 degrees of Gemini. It is making a quincunx to Uranus and a square to Neptune. I think this is significant, and not just for ourselves. I know I use the word significant a lot, but it just fits. Um, Today, when I was thinking about looking at this full moon, I was thinking about the United States and the media and what's been going on with the media recently, and how Jupiter's been transiting through Gemini, and now we're having this full moon in Gemini, and it just feels like the timing is right for an illumination of some kind. So let's just back the bus up a little bit and let me talk about what a full moon is. A full moon is when the sun and the moon are in an opposition, and the moon is reflecting the light of the sun, and it's the brightest phase of the moon. Oftentimes people think that it's a ending of some kind because the moon is so bright, it illuminates the landscape, which offers us choice. And the human defaults to that being an ending. I often think of it as a beginning with more information. So I think that this is very significant. There's that word again, because Mars is retrograding in Leo and making an opposition to Venus in Aquarius. This is happening in the background of all our lives, but it's also happening in the background of the United States. And I just think that I'm going to pull up the United States chart and show you why I think that we're going to pay attention to this today. Mars is also making a trine to Mercury in Sagittarius as it's retrograding. And it's actually stationed at 6 degrees of Sagittarius because on the 15th, later in the day, Mercury will go direct. Now, this full moon for me, because Jupiter's currently transiting in retrograding in Gemini, Gemini is the people. Gemini is the media. Gemini is journalism. Gemini is the information we get off the internet, the news at 3, and they give you the sound bites. And this last year, we've seen the media and journalism in general a little bit out of balance. We've seen an expansion of okay, I'm just going to say it, fake news. Okay. And I think that this full moon is going to bring an illumination of some kind for the people so that they will be informed in a way that allows them discernment. The quincunx to Uranus in Taurus. Taurus rules our personal history. Uranus rules liberation and freedom. And I think that what Uranus has been doing as it's been transiting through Taurus is wanting to put us all into the 2.0 version of our lives. So I'm going to pull up the United States chart and the day of the full moon and show you why I think that this is important for us, because while you may not be in the United States watching this video, the world at large is affecting our everyday lives. And the players that be and the things that are going on and the conflicts that are going on are affecting our everyday lives. So let me pull up the chart and tell you why I think this is exciting and why I think it offers us a lot of awareness and power through that awareness. So let me pull up the chart. Now, one of the reasons why I'm focusing in on the United States also is because we are going through a presidential transition where one administration is wrapping up and another is beginning. So I want to point out that here is the sun in Sagittarius, and this is on, I'm actually going to flip this a bit because I am focusing in on the United States. I'm going to put this back into Placidus because I think that's interesting when you're focusing in on a specific situation versus a group of people, because it does shift the chart. Okay, so just a little something that occurred to me. So the sun is smack dab in the middle of the United States first house. and it's making an opposition to the moon in the seventh house. But the moon is in a conjunction with the United States Mars. So there's going to be some sort of illumination about information, and potentially it could bring up an illumination about men in the media. It could bring up an illumination about how the media has been used to, how the media tells us about the conflicts that we are in. Gemini is the seventh house for the United States. That's the house of committed and contractual partnerships. Mars rules war as well as men. And I just feel like we know there are conflicts around the world that we are addressing, that we are getting information about, and the information is coming through traditional news sources, and those news sources are going through a renovation. It's also important to note that the United States is having a Chiron return at this moment. And this is another reason why I like to put things in Placidus, because if I pushed this into whole sign, it would have put Chiron in the fifth house for the United States. But here it puts it in the fourth house, the house of country, of our roots, of our origin, of our homeland. So we are having some sort of revisit to how we interact. And the fourth house is ruled by Mars, who is a key player in this full moon. So I think that's super, super powerful. Now, at the same time, Venus transit is having an opposition to Mars retrograding. This is in the United States' eighth house of other people's influence over us. We also see that this opposition is in conjunction with the United States nodal structure. Here's the South Node. The United States is used to being the libertarian, the rebellious one, maybe even the hero that goes in and, changes the old regime and opens it up for the bigger picture. And yet here we're seeing some kind of conflict between our self-worth, our values, really reassessing during this full moon, reassessing as a result of our partnerships and the media, how we assert ourselves. Are we asserting ourselves authentically? The South Node is a habitual point of behavior and of thought. And if we think about since the United States conception, it is always purported itself to go in and be the supporter of other people's freedoms, okay? And now it's being charged to actually look at its leadership skills, to actually sit and consider how the individual and how potentially the eighth house is so transformational. How are we standing in leadership for other people? And even to the point of supporting their personal pleasures, freedoms, and fun. So I think that this is significant because this plays in the background of this illuminating moon. Let me click off of Venus now. And the reason I'm calling it an illuminating moon is because I really believe that as we look at how this is affecting the United States, it is the sun here I clicked on is making a trine to the Chiron. So if we are willing to look at ourselves and move into new areas and belief systems and to consider our foreign friends, allies, and neighbors in a more broad way, I think that this can start to rewrite the United States reputation. But we also see that this moon, the sun and the moon are making a square to Neptune. Neptune is transiting here. Neptune is conjunct the North Node on the IC of the United States, the very lowest point of the United States chart, where it sits, its home. It's so I think that this is very important because the square is asking us to start to reevaluate how we nurture our partners. The seventh house for the United States in Placidus is part Gemini and part Cancer. So the Venus in Cancer here is making a square to transit Neptune, and this north node that is stretching to be seen for its highest vibration. So the United States has an opportunity to be seen as a hero, but part of that is going to require being egoless to our own self-worth. That's the way I want to put it, our own self-worth in partnership. I know this kind of sounds like a little bit off. Normally, I talk about individuals and I talk about the signs, but with the transit Pluto moving into Aquarius and still in the second house of the United States, we are revisiting key dynamics from the conception of this country. And Pluto is going to move over the United States South Node. It will get within 3 degrees of it this year. So we are very much having to look at the underbelly of our own toxic energy and our own staleness. And as a result of that, we are being stretched through that north node to revisit how we look at leadership and how we look at support. At the same time, the nodes are going to move into the Virgo energy in January. So the United States here has the South Node right now on the supergalactic center at the time of this moon, having to be egoless to it being the source of all things. The supergalactic center is a point within the Shapley cluster where we can tap into our own powers of co-creation and see ourselves as source energy. Now, having the South Node transit over that point while we're experiencing this full moon is really requiring the United States to look at how they are in partnership with others and if they are really creating a sense of balance and fairness within their reputation out in the world, as well as how they're showing up for the people here within our own country. Because if we think about this idea that the second house rules our skills, it rules our voice. Gemini rules the media. The media, one of the things the United States is so proud of is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of thought. And we're seeing that more and more that is being suppressed. So I think that this full moon is going to illuminate where we have inadvertently been overly aggressive about how we dispense information. The United States has a stellium in the 7th house, the Sun, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. And while these planets here are not necessarily considered an orb of the the full moon, they are within the house that creates the environment. So we really get to revisit our beliefs, Jupiter, our self-worth, how we take action in partnership, how we assert our aggressiveness. And I believe Jupiter's retrograde, which is going to go almost all the way back to the descendant before it moves forward again, is giving the United States an opportunity to expand and to rewrite its beliefs about how Jupiter rules publishing, writing, branding. To me, it's content creators. And we put it inside of Gemini. It's, really kind of this double whammy of news media, our judicial system. There's that as well, because the 7th house rules the judicial process, diplomacy, fairness, lawyers. Yes, the 9th house rules the whole system, but it rules the people that implement the system here in the 7th house of Gemini. So I think that this is going to be a really key time, considering that we are about a month away from a new president being inaugurated and a whole new administration coming into the United States, which is rippling out to the world. Let me just get off the moon for a second. I don't want to make this video too long. If you want to check out your own chart, you saw that the moon is in Gemini. Wherever Gemini is in your chart will be the focus. So it'll be on thinking, speaking, writing, potentially your siblings, your neighborhood, your communities, your workmates, your teammates. Something will be illuminated for you, but there will be stress behind it because Mars's opposition to Venus is a push-pull, not just between the feminine and the masculine, but between the receptive and the action, and how we take that seesaw, and how inspired action is more influential and more potent in our creations than when we're pushing up against something. And that sometimes Mars wants to push. And Venus is like, no, let's wait a minute. Let me receive a message, the feminine, the divine feminine. I also want to note that Mars retrograding is making a trine to Mercury, as Mercury is stationing to go direct on this day, later in the day. I think that this favorable aspect gives us an opportunity as the people to assess how we are taking in information. That's the key thing for us as the everyday workers, the people that we're really the machine that makes this country, and most average citizens are the machines that make their countries move and roll. So overall, I think as a world community, we are going to be more aware of how information is received and dispensed, and how it is being skewed and potentially aberrated in ways to influence us in things that are not necessarily always for our highest and greatest good. And as we take back our powers of discernment, we also take back our God-given right to express ourselves authentically on the planet. And that's Pluto's transit into Aquarius for the next 20 years as we usher in the space age. And we have to start to get along with creatures that will look quite different than us, and might even look at us as bugs. But in any case, the point about Mercury is about the thought, the speech, and being aware of that. Please check out the monthly video for January for more information on how Mercury moving forward is going to bring you some benefit in the new year, as well as some other planetary shifts. My name is Terry Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. I hope you enjoyed this full moon video. It's a kind of different than what I usually do, but I'm really, for some reason, very called to look at the environment of my country and how that affects me in my everyday life. And I really think that news and media and the information we're getting that affects our decisions is in great need of balance, and to get back to the basics of we agree to disagree. All right, everybody, I hope you liked this video. Please like, please subscribe, please share, and I'll be back soon with more content. So check for that. Bye-bye.